contacts at base! 2 contacts at base! Reloading!
If you've ever bought one more airsoft gun, thinking it would be the last, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, guys. Today we're finally talking about the final airsoft rifle that I'll ever need in my entire life. I basically got rid of my entire $18,000 15 airsoft toy collection and settled for one rifle, with the exception of one other thing. But this is basically going to be the daily driver for the rest of my life. I don't need anything more because it does everything that I need, and maybe you should do the same thing too. So let's get right into it. So let's actually talk about what the rifle is first, what system it is. Is it a gas blowback? Is it an AG? No, it's an electric blowback, and it's a true electric blowback. No, the flap isn't the only thing that's moving. There's an actual mock weight inside. So if you actually shake it, that sound is the sound of the weight, and my laundry machine going right now. But basically, this is the happy marriage between a gas blowback rifle and an electric AEG. And the good thing about that is that you get the realism and you get the performance consistency of an AEG all season, all year round. Now, when we talk about the specific Tokyo Marui NGRS guns, these don't have the performance that most other countries would seek. So America, for example, or Europe. Actually, I think the UK is fine, but it's only shooting around 300 FPS, so you're not going to be able to get super long distances without upgrading this thing to Kingdom Come and completely gutting it. But for Japanese context, maybe UK and Korea, or countries with lower FPS, or even CQB, these things are absolute king, with one exception. But let's talk about why I got an NGRS. So I want to have that realism, and I want to have the consistency of an AG. When I was using gas blowback guns, the slightest change in weather or air pressure, altitude, whatever, would affect the gas blowback's performance quite significantly. We don't really have other gas types to make up for temperature changes, so we can't just go out and get green gas. We have to all use duster gas. We can't go get black gas or whatever. The only other option we have right now is CO2, and the industry is slowly moving towards that here because we just don't have green gas due to legality issues. So the NGRS is the perfect medium for that, and it shoots at like 92 meters per second, which is pretty good for most fields, and banned at some fields in indoor because it's a little bit too fast. So I wanted to have that realism. So the actual special thing about this system is that it actually has a mock bolt in the back, giving an actual recoil impulse, and it has a bolt catch system. So the bolt catch will disengage once your magazine is empty, so you have to reload a full magazine and then hit the bolt catch for it to start shooting again, which is really, really cool and great for muscle memory. No, if you rack the charging handle, it's not going to engage the bolt. It will only expose the hop chamber. So with that out of the way, let's go tip to butt on the last airsoft rifle I will ever need. So on the end here, we have a Tokyo Marui suppressor. And I lied, it's actually a tracer. This is the full auto tracer, that super old one from way back then. I've had this lying around, and I usually interchange it with my MP5, and I kind of just wanted to have a suppressor look, and which is kind of rare for me because I usually don't like suppressors because they're pretty detrimental to space, especially in CQB, but I thought this looked really cool. The tracer doesn't really work anymore, apparently. Apparently it drains the batteries, according to my friend, so I guess it's just decorative. Doesn't have any sound baffles inside though, so it's not gonna be reducing the sound at all. But it can work, I guess. But yeah, I think it just looks cool. I can interchange it with different types. It has a 14mm counterclockwise thread with an O-ring on there so it doesn't get stuck on the barrel. As we move along to the rail here, we have our iron sights. See, these are regular Knights Armament iron sights that came with the standard URG-i. They flip up, they're made of metal, and they're kind of cool. The only issue with these is that now that I have the large riser, the really tall riser on here, I can't actually use these to co-witness because there's no space to actually see through them and I can't do anything. So I'm considering removing these because they're actually just useless now. So yeah, I just keep them on for looks right now. So we're not really gonna do anything with that. Might throw it on something else. The next thing is the flashlight. As you can see, I have a button here for the flashlight, and this is super glued onto the little rubber padding thing because these things always come off. It's super annoying. And then it kind of wires through here with my electric tape that holds down the wire onto my Surefire X300 or M600 flashlight replica. And this thing is about 300 or 400 lumens, depending on how much battery you have left, and it works just fine. The only thing that sucks about replicas is that these wires eventually break, so you're gonna have to replace them. And what we have thrown on here is a little condom for the flashlight so it doesn't get shot out. It's basically just a T1 Hugger optic cover, and it has a polycarb on top, so if I go in CQB or whatever, this is not gonna get shot out. And it's being held on by tape because it's not exactly to spec. Let's talk about the grip. So this is a real steel Magpul RVG grip, M-Lock edition, very, very nice, very sturdy, very nice, very sturdy. And it feels completely different to a replica. You can kind of just feel the difference, and the amount of torque that's needed for these screws is so much more, and it's just not going to be moving anywhere, and it's such a solid addition. The reason I use a RVG is because it gives you the best of both worlds. So if I need to do a transition and broomstick this thing with my left hand, I can easily hold it because it's awkward to kind of C-clamp because of the wiring, so I can hold it down like this. And then with my right hand, I can do the high bore grip, which is what I usually do. So I pull into my shoulder, kind of go this way, and then hold on to the rail or my camera that would go on top here, or a pec box. So then I'll have a nice C-clamp like that. Well, not a C-clamp, high bore grip. And then I have access to all my controls here for everything. This is purely decorative, by the way. Maybe you could put a camera on there, I don't know. But basically this is how it works. If I'm tired in CQB or if I'm crouching or something like that, I can hold on onto this too. So it's very useful for me to have best of both worlds instead of a hand stop, which is what I wanted to use before. But having the foregrip is a lot better in my opinion, especially for shorter SBR type rifles. So speaking of SBR, let's talk about the handguard. So my boy Pasta, if you remember, administrative results, he actually customized this URG-i and changed out the handguard and the outer barrel. So now the outer barrel is a 10.5 and then the handguard is a 9-inch handguard. So we're basically looking at Mark 18 level lengths with half the weight. This is a replica of the Geisley Mark IV, so it's not exactly to spec. That includes the QD. So there's actually the QD on here, the circle, doesn't actually take QD, which is unfortunate. So I had to like figure out a different sling solution by actually tying it onto here. I usually like to use QDs for my sling solutions because they're so much faster, so much more reliable. Or I could go for the Piccadilly, the Picatinny version of the 45-degree Magpul sling mount, which would also work well, also for reloads. But for now, I think it looks kind of cool just having a tied down look, and it kind of looks a little vintage, like Black Ops or something like that. So that's basically what's going on with this. It comes in a nice a gold, I guess. It's a kind of an exaggerated gold color, and it doesn't even have a gas block. So it's just like a normal handguard, and I think it's cool and it's great for CQB. And it's great for basically any application in Japan. Japanese fields are fairly tight, even outdoors for CQB, and just having an SBR length 9, 10.5, or 11 is the perfect length for anything. If I wanted to really get tight, I would take off the suppressor and just run the flash hider, and you can reduce the profile of this thing a lot. This is probably the best addition to this rifle, which makes it so unique, which makes it actually more viable. Tokyo Marui had come out with a new 11.5 URG-i with the new stock and everything, but this is actually shorter than that, so it's actually more viable than the 11.5. So I really like this handguard a lot. It did have issues at the beginning with being loose, but Pasta came over, Loctited the outer barrel, and it's good to go now. And yeah, it doesn't shake, it's very sturdy, and it's good to go. So let's talk about the upper receiver for a second. So the upper receiver, stock upper receiver, it is a used upper receiver that Pasta was able to find, but it is an NGRS spec, so it can fit the recoil system in there. Now, the interesting thing about this is that if you were to, in theory, get another upper, you can essentially change out the handguard and the upper of your rifle, which is what we can do, like so. So this is the original URG-i handguard. It's the 14-inch that came with my rifle. And in theory, if I wanted to, I could pull this out, take out the pin, pull this out like a gas blowback, and throw this on the 14 like this, and it would easily be compatible and just work. Now the cool thing is, and the ironic thing is that my rifle is at 14 inches now with the suppressor. But if I wanted to throw a suppressor on the 14 inch, it would be even longer at 16 or 17 or something like that. So it really is just to my detriment or my choice to make it longer like this, but the maneuverability of the 9-inch handguard just feels a lot better than the 14. I just feel like I can do so much more with it. The original one also has a different color. It's this nice kind of worn out bronze, and I really like it a lot. What I'm planning to do with this upper at one point is to put an LPVO on here, get a flashlight, and make it a rec rig. But for now, we're gonna keep it at this. But it's nice to know that I can easily change this out as soon as I equip this with some actual gear on it. But right now it's just chilling in base. Oh yeah, and it actually has an actual QD, so that's cool. Let's talk about the lower receiver. So when we talk about the lower receiver, we'll talk about the gearbox basically. So inside we have a Gate Titan V2 NGRS. So that's basically the essential upgrade that every NGRS gun needs, because NGRS guns are prone to lock up like crazy. When you shoot them too fast or don't pull the trigger all the way, which does tend to happen, they will lock up. You have to go into full auto and then burst that thing out for it to actually unlock itself. But with the Gate Titan, don't need to do anything. It's just gonna be great every single time. Now, the response of the trigger is quite good, stock. It's better than a standard AEG, but it just does have that lockup issue. You're limited to how fast you could actually shoot it. With the Titan in there, you can make the trigger response even faster. You can pre-cock it, which I don't recommend doing. It does shoot a lot faster and has better response, but it does mess up the bolts catch, and it won't actually catch onto the bolt because the piston's actually back all the time because it's pre-cocked, which I also recommend to reinforce your piston with either a different piston or just put some super glue on there and just kind of reinforce that thing. If you're keeping this thing basically stock and just changing out the Titan, you don't really need to upgrade any of the gears, anything like that. But if you're living in another country where the FPS demands are higher, then yes, do the full shebang. But for your standard build, at least get a Titan. It is a must-have. You can switch your things to Deans, and you can change the trigger response to be even shorter if you want. You can even bump fire the thing, it's really cool. Let's talk about the magazine now. So the magazine I use is the PTS EPM magazines. As you can see here, it is a BB magazine. And the reason I like these a lot is because they're super sturdy and I can throw them on the ground like crazy. One of the cool things about the NGRS system is that it does have the functions of a gas blowback and all the benefits of the AEGs. So the bad thing about gas blowbacks is that yes, you have your realism, your 30 rounds, 35 rounds, whatever, but you can't throw those things on the ground. They're expensive, they're prone to breaking, and they're quite heavy. Whenever I see videos of people throwing their gas mags on concrete or on the ground, I'm just like, ooh, that's gotta hurt. But with the PTS EPMs, like you can throw these things like crazy and you will never have an issue with them. I tend to use these steel magazines because they're a lot cheaper, and it's a little bit harder to find these EPMs. And the cool thing about these EPMs is that you can switch them to 30 round magazines. Same with the regular stock Marui ones, that's the one I have in here. But being able to switch to 30 rounds is very important to me because 30 round magazines is what makes Airsoft fun for me. I like to reload, manipulate, do all that fun stuff, and actually think about how much I have to shoot, etc., etc. But yeah, super cool, super aesthetic, and definitely a must-have to complete the look. It does look cool with the steel magazine too, but I just like how the EPM looks infinitely more. Before we move on to the grip, I also want to talk about the internal upgrade here. So I also upgraded the barrel to, I think it's 155. It might be a 155. I think it's 155 millimeters for the inner barrel. It's a Type Bore 6.03 inner barrel by Prometheus, and makes this thing a beamer, honestly. The only thing I need to change now, I think, is because it's been used so long for the last 2 years, is the hop rubber. And I think I might change it to like a maple leaf or something, because I think the Marui hop rubber in here is starting to wear out a little bit and it's kind of shooting to the left a little bit too much. So the hop rubber might need some changing, but it's a consumable and that happens all the time, so it's not an issue. Now, let's talk about the grip. The motor also has been upgraded. This is an SHS motor, and it's a high torque motor, so it actually shoots a lot faster than the regular EG-1000 that the Tokyo Marui has. And we switched out the grip for a K2 grip replica of the Magpul K2. This is very nice. I like it a lot. I hate the A2 grip. I hate the little nub. I hate the angle of it. And this one is just so much better. It hugs your hand, it has a good fat grip, and it has stippling on there for extra grip on there. And I've always liked the tan grip on the URG-i as opposed to the black. And honestly, this is probably one of the best grips I've had. The next being the PTS EPG. Yeah, the enhanced polymer grip, which are really super nice. They feel great. But this one is also great as well. Pasta put it in, and it's awesome. Let's talk about the controls. So, safety, semi, full auto. It can do it all. I like how fast it is. It's not ambidextrous though, which is unfortunate, but that means it's a lot quicker than something like a 416, which runs a cog on the back of the receiver to do an actual ambidextrous. It kind of makes it go. But this one's really fast. Easily do the manipulation, not an issue at all. And you could also manually set the pre-cock by doing some settings, like holding this down and doing a whole bunch of that. But again, don't do the pre-cock, it's probably gonna ruin it. Rate of fire is really good. It's as fast as you can pull it, and the full auto is also faster as well because of the Titan being able to actually compute and cycle this thing properly. But trigger pull, it's an AEG, so nothing's actually happening, but it does use the optical sensor for the gate Titan so that it can actually shoot, and you can actually make it thinner or longer, shorter, whatever you want, using the program. So it's really nice. The probably only thing I would want to change is maybe the trigger guard, because I've always hated these straight trigger guards because they cut into your hand. I'd love to get a Magpul one that kind of curves around, so it'd be very nice and easy on your hands. But that's kind of like a quality of life kind of thing, so it's not an issue. Charging handle is the Geissele charging handle. It's plastic though. But it does look cool, it's unique, and it's actually coveted. A lot of people want to get this charging handle, and the only way you can kind of get it for the NGRS guns is to order it from Marui yourself as a spare part. So that's unfortunate. Pulling the charging handle does reveal the hop-up unit. So the hop-up unit is a rotary style. It's the Tokyo Marui amazing stock hop, and this thing will shoot 30 meters, no problem. 40 meters if you really push it to like do that whole stupid curve thing. I don't like to zero my guns that way. I like to just keep them straight and let them fall down. So that means I shoot this thing at 30 meters, but very nice, not an issue at all. So on the back here, we've replaced the non-plate for a CQB plate. So similar to a Mark 18, there's a CQB plate for a sling. So you can put it on the left side and the right side. I think when Pasta was building this thing, he was using it for actual CQB at breakpoint or whatever, so you actually did need that 1-point sling. Unfortunately for me, I don't like to use 1-point slings, and even a 2-point sling from here to here is just too short. And then when you drop the rifle, it goes down way, the way it drops, I don't really like it. I like having it here, but it's nice to just have this option if I want to run a 1-point. Let's talk about the buffer tube. This is the infamous buffer tube that is actually slightly bent to the right, and I don't know why that is. It's very subtle, and the more I look at it, the more pissed off I get about it. So I don't want to talk about this that much, but it is slightly bent this way for reasons unknown. When I first got this thing, it was used, so maybe the previous owner screwed it up. We've tried changing out the receiver, we tried changing the grip, we tried changing the buffer tube itself, we tried changing everything, and nothing changed. We even changed this whole thing out for the 416 version. Nothing changed. I don't know what's wrong with this thing, but it doesn't affect the performance at all, and as long as I don't think about it, I'll be fine. Now, let's talk about the stock. This is the B5 stock, or the regular crane stock, not the stock Marui one, but because it does have a better rubberized padding. But it also doesn't have QD points on these little tiny holes, so I actually have to traditionally tie down this sling like this. And it's kind of annoying because it kind of gets in the way sometimes. I used to like to do the QD on this side, on the sporting side. That way the rifle would drop in a better way. It's easier to transition because the sling's on this side. But because I'm kind of limited right now to what this is, it kind of is annoying to do transitions and stuff like that. But it gets the job done. It's a crane stock, nice cheek weld. It's a little nice and little worn. And it has a better compartment for the battery space. So if we talk about the battery space, it is a Dean's connection now because of the Titan, and it has plenty of battery space for things and such. So very nice. I use a LiPo with this, 7.4 LiPo. If you use 11, it'll probably blow it up, so don't do that. Use a 7.4 and you'll be good to go. The Titan will do the rest of it. So let's talk about the optic. This is the Vector Optics, sponsored, not sponsored, Maverick 1. It's compatible with the Vector Optics high riser, so the 1.96 riser, and it's absolutely fantastic. I've had no issues with this thing. It has great brightness. It can handle the recoil of the NGRS, and the parallax is basically nothing. So it's very good. But I want to talk about the riser height. So the riser height is a little bit higher than a lower third co-witness because that's just the new meta now, and everyone likes to use it like this. And because sometimes I use hard face gear, it's easier to get a sight picture just by like putting it up like this instead of putting my head down. It's very easy to look through, find a dot, and get the job done. Now, the only issue with this is that the height is a little bit higher than I'm used to, so I'm kind of not used to the holds or the offsets because it's a lot higher. So the height of a bore is significantly different now that I have a basically 9-inch barrel and a super high optic. So if you do the math, it's kind of high. So you have to zero it for like 10 or 5 meters if you want to really play in CQB. But I usually zero this for 20 or 25. And it sucks because I can't use my iron sights to co-witness. When like sometimes you're shooting at a target, you're not hitting them. If I don't know the holds, which I don't know the holds, I usually just flip up my irons and just kind of use the irons. But I can't because the way this mount is, I can't actually see through them. So these are basically useless, like I said before. But the presentation of this is very, very nice, and I like it a lot. I just had to train with it because I haven't been training. I don't know my holdovers. But yeah, man, this is basically the only rifle I ever need in airsoft. It's fantastic, gets the job done, and yeah, it's completely versatile. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to see more airsoft videos and this thing in action, click this video right here, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out, A-Town, Rocky. Cheers.